Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, I hope you're having a good day. This is the Win with Dice podcast all about tabletop RPGs, running them, playing them. Calvin and I kind of share our experiences, and anybody else we could rope on to jump on the podcast, so you guys can feel a little bit more confident about maybe exploring the other side of the screen, or maybe even joining a game. Or I was trying to put the name of the show in the title so you can win with more dice. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, that's basically the intent of the podcast. I think you got it about right. I think people understand what you're saying. I think you're laying it down.
Man. Yeah, like, as much as I like to think of myself as like a smooth talker, I'm not. I often mess up stuff, which is good. We can learn from our mistakes, and that's what we do here.
I'm not really either. I just pretend to be one on the internet.
All right, yeah.
All right, so yeah, let's I don't know, we have any more preamble you want to say? Any new stuff, any new RPG related stuff going on that you want to talk about?
No, I don't think so. Let's just get into it.
Okay. All right, yeah, let's hop right in. I don't know, I always feel like we should do some more like rambling before we get to the actual topic like other podcasts do. I don't know if that's more or less professional.
Well, hey, if you haven't already, follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, help us out. It's always nice to hear from you guys. I don't really know how to do this stuff. Calvin usually does all the intro stuff. So
I just meant like, I don't know, flim flam, but I guess the whole show is flim flam, so we could just hop right into it. Let's start on the one of the most important sections of the show, of course, is the Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week. Which this week will be provided by Ramon.
Yes, the Win with Dice weekly GM tip of the week, brought to you by Ramon. Honestly, it's probably because I thought ahead and wrote some stuff down for the tip of the week,
on the
so I don't have to stall.
63rd episode.
Finally. Hey, people can change. They never say they don't. But like, sure. Listen, okay, this is why the preamble always happens, because I'm always trying to buy time, which is a good tip. A good thing you can learn as a DM. You're usually just trying to buy some time while you scramble the next part of the session.
Yeah, that's actually a good tip. I'm gonna take this over. That's my tip now. If you make everyone roll a perception check, then they all have to stop and roll something and get a number, and that gives you a couple of seconds to think of something real quick.
Nice.
Not that I do that, of course. Anyone who's listening to this, who's in the game that I run, if I ask you to roll a perception check, it's because I have a list of things that I know you can possibly see, depending on the results of that check.
Yeah. It's all about verisimilitude, right? So
Yeah, I never need time to think. I've thought of everything.
Nice.
But all right, Ramon, what's your tip?
So, okay, the tip of the week, this is less of a GM tip of the week, more of like a general like player tip. And that's kind of like to help people role play more. If you're a little bit worried about, trying to do the song and the dance of like playing your character, right? That's like, I think I'm borrowing this from like Matt Colville's video, but like that's like some sort of middle case R for role. It's like, you're just kind of like barking a character, me doing the funny voice, doing the dance. But then like, he mentioned like capital R role playing is like the like when you're actually in I was gonna say piloting, but like, you're actually playing a character that's different from yourself, right? Like you are making decisions for that character as if you were that character. And that kind of stuff is like really hard to get your like headspace in, trying to like get yourself to see from someone else's perspective. It's easier for some people, but I know that like, it's not for everybody, especially if you haven't done something like that before, right? But a tip that's really, really good is just focus on the party that you're in. If you're playing in a group setting, then just, think about how your character feels about, the person to your left or right, like your actual friends, right? Like that you're playing the game with, because, you're going to be spending the most amount of time with them because you guys are all adventuring together, right? Like, how does your character feel about the people you're going on this crazy journey with? And that's like the best way, I think, to start actually capital R role playing. because maybe you as a person aren't really, you don't really care about like I don't know, like violence or strength or something like that, right? But maybe your character really, because they kind of, understand that in the world where, you're bringing the pain to people on the regular, having somebody who is strong and can actually, do the deed, right, on your side is very valuable. So, if a player like you're another PC, another player character is that, like, maybe they have a little bit more respect. Maybe they can talk to them a little bit more. Or maybe like if there was a split decision in the group, you would favor, the dude who can actually end people's lives a lot easier than everybody else in terms of some plans, right? And like that's capital R role playing. It's like you don't think that in real life that like strength and stuff like that is valued, but your character does, right? That's like a good example. But you don't have to. But you could also think that that guy's an idiot because he's all brawn, no brain. So maybe like any sort of big brain decisions, you don't default to that guy. If that character has an idea or something like that, you could be like, no, like I don't believe in it. So and you don't have to do that. You don't have to be an actor to, and speaking like in accents and doing the voices to roleplay. That's like my tip of the week.
That's definitely something I've heard from some people before. Not even in games that I was running, just like tangentially I heard from people who felt like they had to put on some sort of voice or something to be a good role player, and not necessarily. You just have to try to get into the space of the character, and sometimes there might be some extra steps you can take on to do that, just answering questions from that character's perspective. But yeah, you don't have to put on like a whole show. I mean, some people do that. I like to do that, but that's just because, that's where I get my entertainment, by entertaining myself in front of other people.
Oh, yeah, totally. And, like, the tip isn't saying that the song and the dance isn't, like, as impressive, like, right, than, like, did you do your subtext work or whatever, right? Like, I think it's, if you have the ability to go out there and, do the voices and stuff, like, I have trouble with voices, so, like, I hardly do it. But I try at least.
French accent's pretty good.
Yeah, I have one voice. It's like, and it's some really bad French Canadian accent.
Hey, I mean, it's a fictional world, so whatever accent you make, that's just how people from there sound.
It's true. That's true. But yeah, actually, I would say that if you were able to like role play in that sense off the people, you don't actually even need to have that strong of a backstory. Like, you don't have to be worried about your like all of the history and all of like the things that happen to you, as long as you're able to make informed decisions of like going forward about what your character like has like not like the personality, but like why they would value someone else's opinion over the other. Or something like that. That's like a really good way for you to feel like connected to the world and feel like other people can feel like you're actually like focusing in. The example I wanted to give, I guess it's kind of long, but the regular tip of the week. But
yeah, that's fine.
Recently we did a like one shot mission. It's a couple of sessions worth of a Lancer game run by Shaka for the Wounded Dice team. And my character Duke, like maybe it actually didn't say this at all, but my character Duke actually had, so like I had to formulate thoughts of like my team members. So I thought that like Talon was very like I know that Talon was very reliable and like trustworthy, and like if anything were to happen, like Talon would have made a decision, Duke probably would have went with it, because to me Talon's actually his senior. Like in all of this, because like she served in she was a ex SSC, in the Midnight, right? I forget what they're called.
Midnight Squad, something like that. I want to say. I don't have the notes in front of me right now, but I think it was something like that.
I forget the acronym too, right? So she's like spec ops, right? Mm-hmm. And like Duke's like, if that lady says get the fuck out of here, we're gonna get the fuck out of here, or whatever she does, right? Duke thought that Spike was a blunt instrument, because he really was a blunt instrument. Like he was really reliable in the fact that like if he was going in a direction, whatever he actually met is going to die, mm-hmm. Right? But which also translated towards like, I think because he's such like a blunt instrument, Duke will never let him take control of a narrative situation, because Spike would never like doesn't have the fidelity to handle negotiations, right? Which was very obvious when we spoke to
Mokesme, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, we were kind of on the back step with that one, but sure, yeah.
Right, and then even as well as Sunshell. Sunshell is actually the youngest member of the team, and he was actually kind of naive in some situations, right? Because at one point, Sunchild was like, "No, you can't sacrifice your life to Jafara, because he was gonna try and stop." I guess we already talked about it last week. I was like, I didn't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, we talked about everything that happened a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Right, but he's like, no, you can't leave Jafar. Jafar, don't throw your life away. And I was like, Jafar is not throwing his life away. Jafar is trying to stop an apocalyptic event. If any time to throw your life away, it's like right now, kid. And it's like, to me, it was like, I don't think like Duke was like, I don't think Sunchild is meant to be on this, be in the loins, because like you know what you have to do, right? It's like you don't live this life if you're not gonna lay it down, right?
Right.
And I think that's like all of that was all subtext work, by the way. Like nobody knew about this, but that's what I mean about, you know, focusing on interparty relationships can help you in role playing, because then it was like, you know, I didn't really want Mobun Ginzini I don't want to look bad in front of Mobun Ginzini, because Duke really values his own like his reputation, right?
Right.
So like, therefore, if Talon was handling Jafara basically and dealing with like most of the decisions, Sunchild was making sure Sunchild didn't like was in the right position, because like often like I want him to be supporting in the middle, so like I would, you know, give advice that way, because I like, as Duke, I feel like Sunchild is like the youngest member, so he actually needs the most amount of attention, right? And like basically I barely asked Spike to do anything because, you know, Spike, I waited for Duke would wait for Spike to make like his move, or like, you know, Duke would go one way and I would trust that Spike would go the other way, right? I didn't have to say anything, right?
Yeah, just assume deletion of whatever's going on there. Yeah, exactly,
right? So you know, again, that's all subtext work, and that's like role playing, as Matt Kovala said, with capital R, and that's my GM / you know, person who's playing tabletop RPG games tip of the week.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think I should do more of that, honestly, in games that I play. That's a really good point. It also helps you get a good sense of other people's characters, especially like, I think that's also useful for helping if you notice that there's a player in your game who's maybe not as talkative or seems to be a bit withdrawn in a moment or something like that. If you want to just like bring them out and just like have your character just say something to them, just to make sure they're like involved in the game, because like as a GM, that's something you would have to take care of, just making sure everybody's like keeping pace and up on the game and everything. So it's great as a player to also do that, just make sure everybody's, you know, involved. Just be aware of people's characters. Yeah, I think that's a great general tip. We'll put it on the board.
Did it. I don't know, I'm pretty impressed with myself, but like, probably because I didn't come up with it immediately in the preamble. So, you know, yeah.
Well, hey, I mean, it worked out, so just keep doing that, and we'll have a billion more tips or a billion more episodes.
Oh God, the infinity of time, it's so large. So many episodes.
Right.
We'll go as long as we can, folks.
You sure will. Okay, well, let's hop on into the show then. So we did have a topic request that we wanted to get into, and then we might get into some other stuff afterwards, depending on how much we talk about this specific thing. But we had a topic request from Rebecca, the current GM for, she's doing we've talked about this before, sort of the fantasy high school game that is going on, using the Pathfinder 2 rule set. I mean, we've talked about this game like a bunch. If you want to see the past episodes, I will try to link those two below. But yeah, so she had the specific question to do with sort of like pacing in games and how to sort of reveal information across a series of sessions. which was something that I had to put some thought into because it's something that I feel like I have to develop myself. I was definitely worse at this when I first started because I wanted to have those, you know, those long form mysteries, those things that take like multiple sessions to reveal. And then when you drop that bomb, it's like this whole big deal. Like those were the moments that I wanted. But then that kind of led me down the path of, I feel like I didn't reveal enough things, especially towards like when I first started GMing. I feel like I was kind of like very vague with information, and not vague in terms of like, I don't know it, but vague in terms of like, I want to hide this thing until a better time. And then it got to a point where it was like, oh, well, now I don't know how to work this fact or this situation in. So I guess it's just like a thread that is now just dangling out there.
Some more sewer notes, eh?
Yeah, I do have a lot of sewer notes, a lot of things that are just left untouched for people to come and check out eventually. Yeah, I mean, the sewer note was a very large part of it, especially because the sewer note also had to tie in like 2 years worth of GMing into one plot thread. So
wow. The positions you find yourself in, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But like,
it's experience, yeah. I guess.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, so for me too, well, mine was kind of like the similar, but like the opposite reason, where I want to get to the action so fast that I don't do my plot work. So so all of my reveals are just like, you know, they're not that great because I'm like, I never thought about it so deeply. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta connect these two things. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you know, it was me all along.
Right.
And take off the mask, and it's like, you know, but yeah, let's talk about how you do it now, Calvin. How do you handle that stuff now?
Some of it's situational. Some of it's like, because there are some things that I have written in my, like, I have a section in my notes that's like ongoing stuff. Things I need to keep in mind at all times, and things that are like longer away. And those are just like, sometimes I'll put in there like major points. And I try to not have too many that aren't related to characters. Like with what people give me, I try to go with like, well, what's something I can put in maybe like your hometown that's going on? What's something that's part of your background that's going on that I can maybe do like a whole big smackaroo with? And those are what I let myself, like those are what I allow myself to have for those big reveal moments or whatever. Like if they go to a certain place, they do a certain thing, they talk to a certain person, something might come up. Right. So I don't have to like, you know, like I think it was kind of sort of when I was trying to do like a mystery thing that helped me learn this. And it was just like, you just gotta like, sometimes you just gotta like tell people the thing. If that makes sense. Sometimes it's better that you get that plot point out there. If you're waiting for a moment to do so, like don't force it, put it somewhere natural if you can. But yeah, just like trying not to hide things is sort of what I learned. But as for revealing information now and what I would do in terms of that, I guess it depends on what the information is, really. Like, if it's something earth-shattering, I don't mind that taking a while, but if it's something that will help people get to the next plot point, like, if it's something like there's something going on in this location that is to do with what's going on with what you're currently dealing with, I'll find a way to get to that, right? Like, it might be behind a couple of checks, and then those checks might just be, like if it's information I have to give you, then even a failed check will just be like, well, it'll take you longer to find this, or it'll be inconvenient in some way. But I don't know, I lean more towards just revealing the things that are important, so that your players aren't spending too much time spinning their wheels. Like if that was the kind of thing that I wanted to avoid. Like I didn't want people to feel frustrated, like they didn't know enough about what was going on, or that they had no direction. If you're in a position where your players like obviously know, okay, well, we got to do this thing, got to do that thing. Hey, let's go over there. Let's go over here. Let's talk to this person. Like if they have an obvious direction, then that's probably less of a concern, whether or not you need to tell them something. But yeah, if you get to a point where it's like people don't know what to do next or where to go, then yeah, drop those plot points, drop those concepts, those ideas. A letter shows up, a courier comes up with a message, a vision from a god or something, if that applies to a character. Just something that will, reveal those things if necessary.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So it's like, I think so since we're like not pseudo, but like we're as a team, as like a table of human beings, where we're all collaboratively writing this narrative together, right? Mm-hmm. So, and like, you got to think of like your plot kind of almost like, you could take stuff from like the hero's journey, because literally your players are heroes, right? So, a lot of times it's kind of just like there's like a point in the story where like the players can't go back to just being rat catchers anymore. Right. Typically that's how it goes. It's like you guys are formed a team from like, your party is like all these people from all these different walks of life, right? Mm-hmm. And just by happenstance, you guys might be in the same tavern or take the same quest or are all working together to do this thing, right? But then there's going to be a point where you are the only people who are actually able to solve this problem, right? Or you guys are working so closely together, like you guys find something that's like, well, we can never go back to just being rat catchers anymore. We have to actually be heroes.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of cool because like it usually happens like for me, like that kind of situation happens like at the end of like your act 1 kind of deal. It's like you guys like, are finally working as a team, and maybe you beat like one of the bad guys mini bosses, or not bosses, but like the boss for the chapter, right? And you realize like, oh no, this character was actually working for some other thing, and the plot thickens, right?
Right.
So usually that kind of stuff you should probably leave till like the end. Right, any sort of that kind of information to be like the end of whatever your act 1 would be, where then the team is now actually the team, right? It's like, the Avengers didn't really know what the Infinity Stones were until like the Avengers showed up or something like that, right? Maybe not. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong, because like there's been so many Marvel movies and they're all starting to meld in my brain.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really know until phase 2, where they needed to know. Which I think it just wasn't written until that point, if I'm being honest. But
I mean, yeah, true. Yeah, but like there's also like the smaller stuff where it was like there could be like plot points where it's just pure personal facts, right? Like maybe something about an NPC, or like something about like a town or anything like that, or like maybe it's like a person's, like you mentioned, like something from a player's backstory that now is being revealed to the party, right?
Yeah. Like I did have oh, sorry, go.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I just thought of an example. Like I did have that one particular like when my players were over in that magic university that every fantasy world has now. One of the professors, they had this thing going on with them where they're like secretly this half scorpion creature. And that was something I'd been sitting on for a while, just because I saw this cool piece of art on the internet, and I was like, I want to make that person a character in my game world, and when the players see them, it's going to be real super cool. But then I made notes on that NPC in like 2018, and we didn't meet them until like earlier this year. And at that point, it was just sort of like, just show it, just do the thing. I could have flim-flammed that out a whole lot more, but they were in the area, they were doing stuff there, so I was just like, I kind of want to get to this thing, I want to have this moment, I have this description, so let's just go with it, because I think it's a cool idea. And, it was still like an interesting moment, and that's still a character that exists out there that has a situation going on that has now been affected by the players getting involved in their life. That could have just totally not happened, they could have just been a whatever person, if I had chosen to keep, like, sitting on that secret. I think that was enough of a minor thing that I could just like reveal it to people, that it wouldn't cause like an entire like twist of the overall plot of the game. Those, I think, if you want to sit on for a bit until you need to push it in a certain direction, that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, like we got to remember that like people just want to, learn something new,
yes.
Go to a cool place and fight a cool monster, right? It's like if you could kind of do that in a session, you're like doing a pretty good time for pacing, right? It's hard to say, because it depends on like it depends on the structure of your whole like adventure or your campaign or whatever, right? So if you're like, I want this to take 4 sessions, right, to complete whatever thing that you're trying to do, you probably want to have like there's no turning back from this kind of secret plot point, like around session, like, you know, the end of session 2, right? Because that's like your climax of your whole scenario, or maybe the beginning of session 3, like something revelatory, and then it's like, you know, really trying to feel like the like dealing with the fallout of learning that kind of information in like by like the 3rd session, and then by like the 4th session, you know, at the end of it you have your conclusion, right, where it's like, you know, you final fight with the big bad guy, you guys actually solved the problem that was introduced, like, you know, that big revelation during like, you know, the climax of the adventure or the campaign or whatever, and then it's like done, right? Yeah. That's like also like a good way of looking at it. So, you know, it all depends on your story. It's I guess it's like less like it's more of an abstract concept of like, you know, how do you introduce plot points? But generally, like if you do one thing a session, or the players get to know one thing a session, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah,
depends
I think
on what plot
decent.
points you have, right? It depends
if you want
on
to put
like
an exact number on it.
Yeah, and like depends on the weight of like, if the players like, no, it's like I think it's the scale of like, oh cool, and like, oh god, right? Like, or like there's like, oh cool, oh god, oh no,
oh
right?
No.
Like, yeah, right. On the scale of like what kind of truth bombs you be dropping on your players.
Oh man, I kind of want to talk about plot twists in general at this point.
Yeah, we can unpack plot twists. They're hard.
Yeah, very. Like I had recently gone through one, and I don't know if I talked about it on this stream before because it was kind of a spoiler for the Mutants and Masterminds Nether War stream that I've been on over on the Untold Stories Project channel. But just really, oh man, Alex is such a great GM. You give him a thing, and then, you know, he'll twirl it between his fingers and then stab you in the back with it several sessions later. Because we had talked about, I guess I can talk about this a bit. I'm not too worried about spoiling it because I'm hoping people have been at least sort of watching that show. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't spoil too much. I'm on the fence now. But like I had introduced an NPC to him, just because I needed someone for my character to talk to during downtime. And that was largely the factor of what it was. Like, I needed something for my character to be up to when he wasn't being a superhero. And I needed a person for him to do that stuff with, because I needed someone to bounce off of. And I wanted to expand, like, because, like, I used a canon character, and he had a few other, you know, like, characters in the world that were related to what his background and stuff were. But I wanted just something a bit more than that, because it wasn't very wide. It was sort of like the only people he knows are other superheroes. So I just wanted like a regular person. And then I had that, and it was like a really fun character to bounce off of when they were like developing that relationship, and working on their personal projects and everything. But then that character got involved in a certain plot point that has just like thoroughly changed the dynamic between the two of them now. Because again, I ran into that character again in the last session, and it was just such a tense conversation that they were having. Like, I myself was feeling extremely tense for that whole session, because I knew it was coming up. Like, they're basically working on like helping out this one part of the city that they live in. You know, superhero cities, they have their big tall industrial towers and their, like, you know, street level crime sections of the city where the street level superheroes hang out. So they're sort of working in that area because I'm the badass normal superhero. And they were having like this TV interview about it, and I was super tense going into it because I knew, like, I'm gonna have to see this person again. I'm gonna have to deal with the fallout of this thing that they have done that has radically affected, like, not only the character relationship but the entire world. And I don't know, it was just such a really great twist that I want to go into a whole lot of detail about, but then I will feel bad if someone just starts watching the show and then knows it's coming. But you can see my stupid face when it happens. You can see my reaction to it.
Yeah. Folks, go check it out, and then Calvin can talk about it. Hopefully.
Yeah, please. I still want to go into detail with it, but I don't want to take that surprise away from people.
Yeah, let's give it a couple months, and then and then maybe we could touch base back on it because it sounds pretty cool.
It was super cool. I don't know. It was just a thing that was like, because that character's been around for months at this point, multiple sessions, and there were times where I was suspicious of them. Like Calvin, the player, was suspicious of them, and I had a section of my notes just jotting down those random suspicious things that they did. And then we had the episode where we were all playing like NPCs who had all been captured. So we had like one episode that was just featuring them escaping where they had been captured to. One player was playing that character. And they saw some things on their character sheet, and I was like, oh my god, what the hell did you see? And when they were rolling stuff, I was like, wow, you got a really high roll for that deception check. What does that mean?
You're like, wait a minute.
That was suspiciously good.
Oh, wait. Have you been lying to me this entire time? I didn't know because your deception's so high. That's so funny. That's actually a pretty pro move. I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah.
It's like, I kind of like that idea that you just, oh, by the way, you guys get to play the NPCs you guys have just been talking to for a week, and you're like, oh god, these stats are so high. Why are they so high? It's getting me nervous.
Yeah, because they were all related to like our characters, but with my bad luck, unfortunately, 2 of the NPCs related to me got captured because we had managed to save one particular person, so the player would have been playing someone else, so they ended up having to play that character. Because my sidekick also got captured. But that was fine. He got to do some character development. He needed it.
Nice, yeah. Well, that's actually a pretty cool way to reveal, some cool plot points. Let your players play some NPCs and in like some out of context moments, and then link them back up too. And you're like, oh, wait a minute,
right?
Let's start connecting those dots, right? And that stuff is kind of cool too. I think it's good to have like a mixture of like organic kind of connecting, like let the players connect the dots on their own, and you outright telling the players like, by the way, this is how this works kind of deal, right? I'm really bad at it because like I bury like a lot of plot related stuff in like nonsense, like because for some reason I never believe that my players are the center of the universe, like ever. So I'm like, yeah, that would be pretty cool, and it's like this probably has nothing to do with the players. And so, no one ever I never treat it as like they should be knowing this. So it's like if they pick it up, they pick it up. If not, they don't. Like I think when I was going over, I don't remember what episode it was. It was a couple episodes ago where like it might have been when we wrapped up season 1 of the Lancer stream, right? Mm-hmm. So it was just like, yeah, there was like all this stuff that was interconnected, but like I guess no one really cared. Like maybe that's my fault. I should probably tie it to the players a little bit harder, so they have personal reasons to care about this stuff. But that's fine.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it too. Just like sometimes you make things and then you realize, oh, no one has any reason to, bring this up or ask about this particular thing. There's no way for them to figure this out or to know about this unless I point it out specifically. And then at the same time, it's like, but is that too obvious?
Right. And it's like, well, maybe this information could be like the key, they need to unlock the next portion of the story, right? Like kind of get through that roadblock. But like, to be fair, I don't think I didn't put any roadblocks at all. I just had that information kind of floating, right? Like, because I positioned the game as like, this is just you going on some missions, right? You guys are, like a pseudo really special mercenary ops team, right?
Right.
Or, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen kind of thing, where like everybody's super skilled or whatever, right? Small team, get in, get out kind of deal. And there wasn't any obvious plot threads kind of connecting everybody, connecting all the stuff like blatantly, right? Like in the mission, right? So everybody was like, oh, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? But there was a plot there that I thought about it. I was like, oh, this will be cool if someone tries to pull on it, then I could explain a little bit more. But for now, I'm just gonna leave it in the background, right? but I think I put it too far into the background, right? Like I just chucked it in some bushes and I've been like, yeah, they'll stumble across this soon. Like,
yeah, I feel like I might have if I wasn't so busy with other stream stuff. So like, do you want to make it more obvious in the future? Like, do you want your plot points to be more like blatant in the future, or?
Yeah, well, I would say like the way I kind of like my advice about like your revelation, like, you know, thing where like you can't go back to just being a bunch of, you know, strangers, right? You guys are the heroes of the universe now. Deal. It's like, you know, you kind of have to like bring that stuff. You don't want to just like drop that on your players without any foreshadowing at all. Right? You want them to get the little breadcrumbs, like, you know, something's going on here, right? But you don't want them to get too much information where the reveal isn't so impactful. But also I would say that you should be like kind of ramping up the amount of like information that you let out, right? So like, you know, it's like, you know, it doesn't feel like all of a sudden like, oh, that's kind of weird. It all of a sudden like the plot just kind of shifts dramatically, but without it being like, I would say like earned, or like even just like, you know, like prefaced before, like you know, like mentioned a little bit before, right?
Right.
It's like when like, you know, like when a character does like a heel face turn, right? Heel face turn? Yes, heel face turn. I think I'm using that statement correctly, like in wrestling. So it's like, you know, there's always a little hints, right? like someone who's good isn't so good, right?
Right.
You know, so, you know, it's like, you know, when they do end up, you know, breaking bad, it's not just like, but why, right? It's like, oh, the signs were all there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's why I have like in my notes a section of like ongoing things to keep track of. These are things that are true regardless of whether the players are aware of them or not. So if something comes up for a certain character or a certain space, then it's like, okay, I need to be aware that this is something that's going on. So if they let something slip out, or however that may function, that's just gonna be how it is. Or like there's some event going on over in this other space, so if a conversation happens where they might hear about it, then I can slip some of that information in. And also because, you know, my memory is terrible, so like I will, going over the game later, I'll think, oh, that would have been a great chance to mention X, Y, and Z, but I never did, so I don't want to let those opportunities pass by.
Yeah, and like there is a point to say like you can drop that information like post the game, or like maybe bring it up in the next session, but you could also like organically shift that stuff, like, you know, further down in the plot, or maybe give a reason for players to like double back so you can give them that information, right? There's so many ways to kind of like pull and contort your planned trajectory to make it work for you and your group, right? So yeah, that's kind of what it is. It's just kind of like, yeah, start off small, you know, end pretty big, kind of deal. Yeah. Yeah. Does
that cover it? Does that answer the question?
I don't know. When Rebecca listens to this, I hope she lets us know if it was good or not.
Yeah, this was our first like official topic request, I think. There may have been others. We've done over 60 episodes, so if my memory is failing me, it's because we've done so many of these. But yeah, if you have a topic you want us to talk about, drop a comment about it, and we'll, you know, slip it into an episode, and then chat about it for 20 to 30 minutes. Yeah. Any advice you need, just we'll think about it and give our opinions. That's basically the meat of the show, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think we did a good job. Cool. But also, this is like a perfect scenario type of deal, and like actually doing it on the table is much harder than we're making it out to be. So, you know, practice makes perfect. You might not nail it on the first time, but don't give up on it. I sure need a lot of work with it, because all of my cool revelatory ideas are like so big
and about like the actual like makeup of the world that I'm kind of running in like my tabletop in my like my fantasy world game, that like there's no reason for you guys to know about it. And even if I tell you, it's like, really, that's how it works? Like, you guys, it wouldn't be impressive at all. So like I'm just gonna let that stuff stew for a little bit longer until it, you know, comes up to boil and it's like it's ready. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff you can do that with. Just don't be afraid to tell players things.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, let's see. What else can we cover for this episode?
Let's see. What do you want to talk about, Calvin?
I don't know. I could talk about my my random encounter tables. I could ramble about that for a bit. Or we could talk about those last few Matt Colville videos, because he's always a good source of information to discuss.
That's true. It's weird. I feel like I should probably like absorb more like other like Dungeons and Dragons / tabletop RPG people, talking heads on the internet kind of deal, right? To see what's out there. But I feel like a lot of my like getting into DMing and like doing all that stuff was really because I started watching his videos. So I feel like the way that he presents his ideas, they just kind of speak to me a little bit. So like I definitely do draw a lot of inspiration from his content. Oh, do you follow anybody else that's like a little bit more than just Matty Koval?
I did watch a lot of How to Be a Great GM videos. I guess I've been watching maybe a few less GM tip videos and like the general ones. I've been looking for more specific ones lately, but I did watch a lot of those. Shoot, I'm trying to remember the name of that one guy that I watched like practically weekly.
Is it Cody?
Oh yeah. Cody, I've definitely watched quite a bit of. Yeah, we've talked about him before as well. Puffin Force doesn't really do tip stuff, but he did talk about mutants and masterminds a bit. So that puts it pretty high in my books. WebDM also. The WebDM videos are a bit longer, but I think they're still useful.
Yeah, for sure. I think that like I don't know, it's some videos out there like I'm like a little bit of a cynic, so it's like, you know, I find that like Koval's videos are like more grounded in like reality a little bit, where it's just like, hey, you're like, you're gonna suck at this, but you're gonna do it. And by the way, like, you know, it's like, you know, there's tons of different like the rules and stuff, and like gaming and all that stuff is really just kind of like like basically it's still everything that you do is still set in the real world, so you can really just use real world logic to solve a lot of stuff and deal with a lot of problems. And I really like you know, appreciate that, right? It's like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. It's like, you don't understand politics? Well, you know, go look at some actual political situations, and it's like, that's probably how it works.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know what I mean? That's good advice. Yeah. I was trying to remember the name. Well, there's WASD 20 that has a lot of good stuff on maps. If you're curious about that sort of thing, especially like making them and drawing them out. And there was a video about like sort of making them more believable that I thought was really good. I did not like, I don't think I really took any of it because I just kind of did whatever, but I thought there was a lot of stuff in there that's still good advice for map making. But the DM layer is the one that I was trying to remember. I think he does like streams that I often miss, but he'd also like post clips of those streams that are pretty good.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, for sure. Maybe we could tackle some of their topics when in the future.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yep.
Well, I don't know. Like, what did you want to start on with? I mean, he did a couple ones about like language, not rules.
Oh, I don't know. I was gonna go back to my table, to be honest.
Oh shit! Yeah. To be fair, I'm a big fan of your tables. I'm really bad at randomly generated content for my games. Like, I don't use them. I just kind of make up shit on the spot most times.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. Like, I feel like I've talked about random tables before in this situation, which is like, I like having tools that are one less thing to worry about. So for me with random tables, I don't have to think up like the plot point, because I do a lot of travel stuff, right? So I don't have to think up a plot point for that particular day. I don't just have to flim-flam. Like, sometimes I'll flim-flam a thing. Like, when we were getting to that wyvern boss fight, I was like, okay, I'm not going to waste your time with, oh, you came across an interesting patch of flowers, or, oh no, there's wolves, roll for initiative. Like, I wasn't going to waste time with that. I was like, let's just get to the fight. The travel takes you X amount of days. And boom, we're here. So, like for times when we're actually doing the travel sessions, like, I want to have stuff there. Like, I want to have something that happens during that day, even if it's just like you saw a cool looking tree. Like, I mean, I literally did that. I literally did. You saw a cool looking tree, and it gave me a chance to do some world building, gave me a chance to do some plot building. It let me reveal some things, and it was sort of a interesting artifact for a few sessions. Players don't listen to this part. Everything I think of is where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, right. And you're running like a live world, so anything that you've birthed into creation is now canon, right? And is now, if another set of players go past that area again, you could be like, yeah, and there's some weird ass tree here.
Yeah.
You have lots of specific details on that weren't there like previously.
Like, that point on the map is marked now. Like, that tree is there forever now. If some other adventuring party comes across it years into the future, like, I might not remember what the tree symbol means, but there's an important tree there.
That's kind of like poetic. That's kind of how like the real world would actually work. It's like, that's why things become mysterious, because people literally just forget what it was for. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
what was Stonehenge for? I don't know.
It was probably important to the people who built it, but now it's like, I don't know. It's probably like time or something. Like, human beings are obsessed with keeping track of time.
Oh yeah, that makes sense actually. But yeah, I've been really wanting to update my encounter table because I feel like it's a bit clunky. It takes multiple dice rolls to get to. But I'm sort of caught between like wanting to simplify the table and wanting to have a believable real world situation. That can be true. Really anything. So like the way my table works right now, and it's sort of based on one from, I'll put a link below to where it's from, reddicediaries.com. Essentially the way they made it, I took it and tweaked it a bit. So like you roll your survival check or whatever navigation check you happen to be doing, because it might be something to do with animal handling, which I think is just survival now in Pathfinder 2e. But anyway, depending on the result of that check, you roll a d12, and the d12, it has sort of a range of results that are changed by how well you do on that check. So if you critically fail that survival check, then like half that d12 could be a hostile encounter. But if you succeed on it, or you critically succeed, then you have less of a chance of hostile encounter and more of a chance of running into a random other traveler on the road, or some sort of unusual like landmark, or just like some random thing that's just out there, like not a person, but just like a small building or a tree, or like some stones or flowers or something like that.
Right. So it's like, it leans toward more of like a sightseeing tour versus like a survival, like fighting for your life kind of deal.
Yeah. So yeah, basically. So like you roll your check, and then you roll on the table to see what kind of thing you get, and then you roll on another table to see what specific thing it is. So like you might succeed in the check, and then you roll, and it's like, oh, you will bump into some other travelers that day. And then I roll on the travelers table, and it's just like, oh, you run into a group of hunters or rangers or whatever who are in the middle of like hunting a beast or something. Like that sort of thing. And I've been wanting to simplify it down like a whole lot. Like I kind of wanted it to be, especially after seeing the Starfinder random encounter table that's in the Galactic Exploration Manual for when you're traveling in the drift, like that interdimensional space between planets. Like the encounter table there is just a D100 table. and that's basically it. And I was like, I kind of want that. Like, I kind of want it, like, you roll your survival check, and then you roll on that table. Like, I want to simplify it down to that instead of, like, you roll your check, and then you roll D12, and then you roll another D12. I feel like that's too many things. But at the same time, like, this gives me more options for making, for modifying the situation. Like, I want the check that you roll to have more of an effect on what you come across. So yeah, like, if you do bad on your check, I want it to be more likely that you run into a hostile encounter. And I've been trying to figure out how to, like, bring that into a more simplified table of just, here's a list of 50 things, roll a D100 and see what you end up on.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right, Calvin. What you could do is, well, okay, so the issue you're having is, like, it's like the more complex you make a mechanic, which would be your table, right? Obviously you can get more detail in it and the more, like, robust it could be. Mm-hmm. But, like, you're basically trading robustness for, or not robustness, but, like, you know, detail for time, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, there's no way for you to do that all together. Like, I mean, you could probably automate it, because, I mean, you know, you could probably program something to just roll, like, you know, just randomly generate things from, like, an input.
That's true, right? Actually. Yeah.
So you could just do that. It would make your life a lot easier. You know, and then you can make it as detailed as you want, because, you know, it doesn't
I probably could do that pretty easily in Foundry.
Yeah, right. A bunch of one-click, like, automated tables, just boop boop boop, kind of, you know, you could do that. As well as, like, you could just have, because, you know, you're playing Pathfinder, right, for your game. So you could have it as Pathfinder has, you know, they have their own table for per level, like, what is, like, you know, hard, difficult, whatever. And you can just kind of maybe figure out a number where it's like, okay, this is the regular DC. Then if they do 10 above, they critically succeed. And if they do 10 below, they critically fail. Right? And, like, that's, like, the range where you make, you know, those tables at, right? Like, you just make individual tables where it's like, did you critically succeed after the arbitrary number I put out for survival? Did you critically fail? You know what I mean? And then you could adjust that number up and down, and that will tell you which chart to roll on.
Oh, okay, I see. So, like, so have different charts for, like, crit fail, succeed, crit succeed, and then roll on that list of things?
Yeah, so that's only 4 lists, which we probably copy and paste. You probably only need to change, like, a quarter of it, right? Where it's like, you have, like, 3/4 bad things, 1/4 good things. And then, like, the next list would be, like, 50-50. The next list would be, like, you know, back the other way. So it would be, like, you know, 3/4 good things, 1/4 bad things. And then it's like there. Or it could just be, like, one chart is really cool scenic stuff. The other chart's, like, really difficult, like, scenarios. So it's like, you know, your critically succeeding survival check would be like, yeah, you find a footpath that, like, it's like an ancient footpath that, like, elves use. So it's actually a really nice walk, and everything's kind of scenic and beautiful or something like that. Because, you know, elves would have some dumb shit like that. Like, you know what I mean?
They would, those elves.
Those damn elves. While if you critically fail, it would be like, yeah, one of the things, instead of finding a footpath, it's like, well, now you're in some really shitty rocky terrain, and it's like there's a chance for you to, like, hurt yourself, or, like, maybe you have, like, a string of really terrible luck and you didn't judge the weather in time, so now you're caught out in the rain, kind of deal, right?
Yeah, I can see that working.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like that's the thing. Where it's just like you're able to you just make separate charts instead of making, like, I don't know, one, basically it's just like a one big three dice chart, right? Like,
yeah, I can see what that would allow me to do, sort of, is I can have different levels of certain things. Like, it can be that, oh, you found a path, you might be able to travel a little bit faster, or something happened to make your path take longer, and I can have that on different tables, maybe, like, just 4 different versions of that are varying between good and bad, or really good or really bad.
Yeah. So like, the concept I'm kind of pulling that from is actually from Lancer, right? So typically it's like, I think of, like, their, you know, 0 to 9, you quote unquote fail, but, like, failing, like, you know, it's the bad ending of whatever you're trying to do, or, like, the worst case scenario of what you're gonna do. The 10 to 19 would be, like, the failing forward best case scenario kind of thing is either 0, you did it, or like, yeah, you did it, but you it cost you something, right? And then the 20 plus is like, wow, you did it and you got something bonus on it, right? So it's like, you know, you could that's where I kind of think of the idea of like 3 separate charts, where like there's a really good chart and a really bad chart and an okay chart.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. I mean, like, what I was thinking, honestly, was just, like, oversimplifying it and just breaking it down to that one long list. But I would have to sort that list very specifically, where I had the really bad hostile encounters on the low end, and then the really good, like, oh, you just saw something cool on the high end. And then depending on their check, I was like, okay, roll a D100 plus or minus 5 or 10 or whatever, depending on their success. But I don't know, maybe just leading into separate tables, because then I can at least still do, like, what I want is for 1 navigation check, 1 table check, and that can work out for that, doing it that way.
Yeah, you could do that too, for sure.
Just like as long as they have 4 tables, like, so yeah, I guess I could do. Yeah, I guess I can do that. I'll try that out. I'll start doing some table ideas of just like, here's the critical fail table, here's the fail table, here's the success table, here's the crit success table. Because I wrote down, like, things they could come across, so.
Yeah, well, it really depends on, like, what you think is, like, a because, like, if you have pluses and minuses, like, your players are only going to experience the, like, majority of time they're going to be pulled back to the medium, right? Because like players are gonna roll average over the course of and like, you know, the same like 100 sessions, right? So that means your chart is gonna be pulled towards average. So the thing that they're gonna be experiencing is more of the average of that chart, because like even if you're
okay.
and like as well as like, you know, if you have minuses, which you mean like that means you're going to be locking off sections of that chart at the very upper and lower ends. Like they're probably very much likely not to get all the way to the bottom or to the top.
Maybe. I mean, like what I was thinking was like if I have a table that's like 50 things, they're each just 2 percentages on a D100. Like 1 and 2 is one thing, 3 and 4 is one thing, and so on and so on until you get to 100. And then like with your check, if you get like a critical fail, you roll a D100 minus 10. Fail is minus 5. Success is just the D100, and crit success is like plus 5 or plus 10 or whatever.
Right.
And then I just have to like specifically sort my table by like, this thing seems worse, so I'll put it like closer to the 1 and 2, 3 and 4. This thing seems really good, so it'll be like in the 80s or 90s or whatever.
That's true, but then you're basically, if you're using that for all of your games, you're skewing your party to whoever, someone needs to have the survival thing. So like, because like, let's say you have a party of people who just don't have any survival skills, right? I mean, of course that makes total sense. They should get lost and shat on because the world is a cruel place and nature doesn't care about you and your hopes and dreams, right? So
True.
like, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah. So, you know, no, actually, now I'm thinking about it, that actually does sound way cooler. So it's like, you know, there's the players who are really shitty at survival will constantly be getting the negatives to that, like that -5 or whatever. So they're never ever going to be able to get to that 95 level of success, right?
Right.
Like it would be if they're, I mean, they're probably they might do it, but it's like more likely that they actually won't because of that -5 you built in there. But as like this is kind of cool thing, it's like, well, if you want to find those secret cool passages those damn elves build, you better be really good at survival. And I think that in itself is a cool idea, because then I love the idea that players aren't actually supposed to find everything, right? It's like there's just some things in the world where you just don't get to experience, and that's fine. Right? Not everything has to be in front of the players. Some things could just be in mystery, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the 100 would be for you. It would be like, and then you just found the god of the earth.
Yeah, because what I would do is I would probably, this was something I was drafting for the Starfinder encounter table that I was making before I saw the one that they had, and I was like, okay, well, this is probably better. I'll just yoink this. Is that I was sort of doing, when you make that dice roll, I think I had a D20 roll for that table. It was sort of like, again, like it was sort of like split by twos, but I did it differently such that there were specific events for rolling a 1 or rolling a 20 on that D20 to see what will happen. And then the rest of it was like, here's something for the 2-3, here's something for the 4-5, the 6-7, and then on until I got to the 18-19. So I had like however many events in there. I guess that would sort of to like 10 events in there. 9 maybe. I don't know. Quick maths, 9 events. And then I had like something on the 1 and 20. So yeah, I don't know. I like your idea, but now you're saying you're like my ideas. I don't know what to go with.
They're probably both good ideas. I think my idea is, probably like you can have finer detail on it because, you're not limiting yourself. Your table could be as big as you want, right? For those ones. But your table is definitely easier to do, like actually be like 2 rolls, right? It's like 1 and then you roll and then you do the math. So I think they're both valid.
Okay, Ramon,
points.
What about this? I'll take my 50-point idea and use that for my travel, and then I'll take your idea with the separate different tables and use that for all the city stuff.
Ooh, yeah.
Because I was thinking I should have something for cities as well because of downtime. I haven't done a whole ton of it, but the last time I did, it was mostly just sort of like people would make their checks and they would do a certain skill thing and they might be doing a job so they get a bit of coin. If I do more of that, especially if people want to do crafting, because I feel like crafting is going to be an important thing going forward for that campaign. So I gotta learn some crafting rules. I gotta use that. What's that one good Pathfinder rules channel that I'm forgetting the name of that we should also give a shout out to? How It's Played, which has a bunch of stuff on Pathfinder rules and some Starfinder rules, I think, also. I gotta start watching those crafting videos. But yeah, like if people are doing downtime in a city, maybe they roll a society check or whatever, and depending on that, some city event will happen.
Yeah, because like negotiating like prices of something and somebody walks in, that'd be kind of deal. Or like you have a little bit of luck and you run into the right person at the right time. That would be kind of cool. Kind of stuff that's happening in a city. Yeah, okay, let's do it, and then let's see which one you like the better.
You know what? Yeah, if I do that, if I take your table and then I attach it to, it doesn't even have to be society, just whatever check they make. And if they do particularly well or good or whatever, I go to a separate table. Because then I don't have to make those tables like 50 points long. They could just be like D6, D12 tables. And something on them can be like, oh, you or another player can get a deal on whatever you're selling. Or just some random thing happens to you. Or you end up in a fight with someone.
Yeah, right. And like the worse they add it, the more likely they're gonna end up with a fight with somebody, right? Or like arrested or something like that. Or like somebody steals something from you, right? That kind of deal. Oh, or like maybe the higher they roll, it's like maybe they find a sale, or they're able to find that one unique piece of like gear that they like, or component that they need, or something like that. Yeah, pretty cool.
They get like a discount on the like material cost of their crafting check, or they get like a +2 or +5 on their crafting check to make it, or they can get a discount on one particular item.
Oh yeah, for sure. There you go, Calvin.
I solved my problem by making more work because now I have to make 2 tables.
But it's better because they're 2 unique tables, right? It's not just like you're gonna have to make 2 tables regardless.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I've been trying to write down some. I did this so much for Starfinder. I haven't done it for Pathfinder enough where I just wrote down random ideas of what could happen while traveling. So I gotta put down like a bunch more of those because now I need like 50 for one table and then like 4 times something else for the other. But sure. Also, it'll be a fun project.
Yeah, and then maybe you can automate it so make your life easier.
Yeah, I know. Like
button.
Foundry has a tab that's like tables. I never used it, but I guess I should.
Yeah, might be a good call, man.
I don't know why I never thought of that. I was just like, oh, I gotta make a table. I never thought of like, oh, technology. Man, I also gotta work on my overland travel because I gotta make that work with Foundry now. So that's a whole other thing. Okay, well, thank you, Ramon, for see. This is why I need the podcast, so we can have the conversations that we would normally have. It's an excuse to pick each other's brains for an hour every week.
Yeah, and I hope you folks listening get something out of it. Obviously, Calvin does.
Yes.
I do as well, because I should probably actually work on my random encounter tables as well. But yeah, whatever you guys choose to doing, hopefully we kind of showed some pros and cons of kind of those two ideas, and maybe you try it out, let us know how it worked out for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I will link to the original version of the table that I used. I very much I kept some of the events from it, but I changed how the rolling works on it, particularly how you choose what table to roll on. But I'll link to that post because I have been sort of using it quite a bit in my game, so I do want to give it a shout out. And I'll try to link to those other YouTubers we mentioned, that random list of disjointed names. But I do want to, I think there's some cool content in there that's useful for people who might want to, if you want to have something else playing in the background while you're planning your games, whoever out there might be doing that, might be some other useful stuff in there. If you have some specific questions, they might be talking about those subjects. But I think that's going to bring us to the end of the show for now, unless you have some other topic you want to talk about for a few minutes.
No, I think anything we can talk about it later.
Yeah. Okay. Also, go watch some Matt Koval videos. But yeah, we can definitely. I think we filled out this episode. I think we had a good talk about pacing, which was hopefully very useful, very good information. Again, that was a topic request, not an official one. It didn't come through official channels, so there's
there's still room to be the first one. Yeah, there's still room to be the first official request. So, drop a comment down below or hit us up on the Twitters.
Yeah, with all the rules and documentation thereof. But yeah, of course, again, make that comment, drop this on Twitter. We're on Facebook still. We don't use it very often, but we still have it if that's the social media of choice for you. And of course, our website where you can, submit a question if you want. We have a contact section where you can send something. Don't send spam, please.
Please don't spam us.
Please don't. I don't want to have to nuke the contact page. I don't want that. But yeah, if you have something you want to talk about, just drop it in there. And yeah, again, we're on social media. Ramon, you mentioned the stuff, so I don't have to say it twice. But I do want to go to our list of shout-outs, including Shaka, who we talked about just now, and the Field Guide to Umfukane. Link to the itch.io page below where you can pick that up. You get I believe the PDF is in there, as well as the LCP files, which you can put into CompCon, so you get all the cool stuff from that book. Make sure you read through that awesome lore, because I thought it was really well written. I thought it was very interesting, and it created such a great visual as I was reading it, so definitely go check that out if you ever pick it up. Also, shout out to Celeste's Lancer RPG NPC guides. If you might want to start, running Lancer, they wrote some really great guides for how to get the most out of certain types of NPCs, which can have some really good tips to get jump started into making cool encounters. And of course, the Untold Stories project. I'm there every week playing some Mutants and Masterminds. They have some other awesome shows on there too. They're starting a new Mutants and Masterminds show. By the time this episode goes up, the first episode of that will also be out. I will probably miss it because I use Tuesdays for editing. So, but yeah, you should definitely go check that out. Yeah, I'll be there again on Monday. We are starting off with a combat next episode. By the time this episode comes out, you will have seen how that combat ended. So, if my character dies, then it'll be a surprise for me. They also have a discount code for the Green Ronin store. So go check them out so you can get a discount on whatever books you want to pick up from their store. Especially Mutants and Masterminds, Fantasy Age, or the Age system in general. And Expanse. So yeah, lots of cool stuff going on in the internet.
Yeah, the internet's a cool place, I heard.
It really, truly is. But Ramon, do you know the best thing you can do on the internet?
Calvin, what is it?
Well, you need a virtual tabletop to do it, but you can continue to win with dice. And I think that was my clunkiest one yet. Jeez.
All right, folks, that's the show.
All right, see you next week.
Okay, see you guys.